First day of spring ball, obviously. I thought it was outstanding. We had changed some things on how we practice as far as, every period used to be a 5-minute period. Now we have some that are 3, some are 7, some are 8, some are 10. It's just according to what we're trying to get accomplished. So that's a little bit different. And then we were doing some what we're calling two-spotting, basically, where we're having, let's say we're having an 11-on-11 drill on one field with the number 1 and number 2 units going pretty much rapid-fire pace. Then we also had another group of 3s working on 11-on-11 as well. So we kind of had to split our staff up a little bit. But, just a lot of reps. We got more reps in really less total time. I thought the coaches really did a good job in the organization of the practice. I thought the players were flying around during the plays, after the plays. A lot of energy, a lot of hard work. The goal was to get all the conditioning while the practice was going on and not anything post-practice. And we got a few drills that at the end of the drill, the offense and defense has got to sprint off the field full speed. And if one guy loafs, then the whole team's got team sprints afterwards. And, there was not one time when I had to add a team sprint to the end of the day. Everybody was busting it really hard. Coaches were pushing, but the players were responding well. Pretty impressed with the fact that our defense could get lined up as quickly as they did. We were going, the offense is going fast-paced, high tempo, and the defensive coaches got the boys lined up, and they're ready to play the ball when the ball was being snapped, which, considering so much is just brand new to everybody, I was kind of curious to see how that would go. And I know there was mistakes, and guys weren't aligned perfectly, and there's some shifts in motions that, caused a little confusion and things of that nature. But like I said, considering it was the very first day of doing it, I thought the defense really did a nice job. It's very hard to point out anybody individually. There's so much film to look at. We'll be getting on that here in just a little bit. But overall, I thought it was a really good first day.
How much time did you kind of maybe step back or take stock of how your new assistants were doing their business and running your show?
Right. Well, I spent most of my time in the fundamental time just observing the defensive staff and looking at some of the fundamental drills they were working on. And a lot of fundamental drills they're very tough to do without shoulder pads on. So some of it was just teaching what's going to happen when the pads get on. But everybody was just really organized and even our walkthroughs, like Coach Pruitt will have 2 or 3 guys standing behind the number 1 safety. When you're in a walkthrough, instead of one guy walking through, you got 3 guys walking through at the same time, and so you'll have a pack of safeties, at one position, and another pack of safeties here, and linebackers and corners, and they're all kind of getting the reps together instead of 11 guys there and 22 over there watching and then rotating and all that. And even during the walkthroughs, we were basically two-spotting that on offense. So you had 1s and 3s walking through, and you had your 2s walking through stuff. And then on the other field, the defense is doing the same. So really, you had four walkthroughs going simultaneously, and then the same thing was happening with our special teams walkthroughs. And then once we got to practicing, we were getting a lot of guys getting a lot of reps. And so again, there'll be a lot of film to watch and a lot of decisions to be made at so many different positions and so many different special teams functions and things of that nature. In special teams, we're trying to find which guys can do what well. We like guys that can run. Obviously, we like guys that can, make plays in space. We're trying to learn through some drill work that simulate what's going to happen in the game, who can actually be on these special teams. But our goal is going to be, you know, 2 special teams per defensive starter. But we'll see if we get to that or not, because, you know, I'm not going to, you know, if a Costa or a Lucas Red or somebody like that isn't a starter on defense, but they're the best special teamer, we're not going to pull them out just to say we got a starter on there. But guys will be fighting for that, and every defensive coach, other than Rock, you know, Coach Rocker, they're all coaching special teams, and every offensive coach is coaching it minus Bobo and Friend. So there's a lot of cooperation there, and a lot of all hands on deck, so to speak, to be able to get that many guys, getting that many reps in a short amount of time.
Coach, on offense, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the quarterbacks or not, but if you did, what'd you see?
Well, Hudson certainly has got total command of what we're trying to do offensively. Fatone is next, and Fatone is getting a lot more reps, and he's doing well. You could tell he's still not 100% certain on every single situation, but we pride ourselves at Georgia to try not to waste any plays offensively. So in doing so, the quarterback's got to make a lot of decisions at the line of scrimmage according to what he sees defensively. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It's just not, we just don't call a running play like, you know, R46 or R toss 48 or whatever it is, and you just come to the line and toss it. No matter what, you're going to come to the line and you're going to look and see what's going on and run the ball to where we think the softest spot of the defense is, or check to a pass. And we're constantly redeclaring who a Mike linebacker is, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people, but the goal of every play is to not run a play that's a wasted play. Because you can call a play, and if the defense is, you know, overloaded in that direction and you don't change out of it, you know, we call it a wasted play. When we're outnumbered, we think it's a waste. So we try to make every play a play like that. Bryce is certainly a lot farther along than he was a year ago, and then, you know, Jacob his head's spinning. I can't imagine how bad his head's spinning right now, but, you know, he did some good things as he's trying to learn what to do.
Coach, how important was it to get off to a good start, like you said earlier, after the incident last night?
Well, we definitely wanted to focus on, you know, the excitement of the first day of spring ball. We have, you know, obviously we had some guys do some things that were foolish, and there'll be, you know, there'll be consequences for that. I'm not ready to talk about that at this moment, but we got a lot of guys that, you know, have been doing extremely well, and we didn't want to take away from, you know, the excitement of day one, and it's football again, and you know, we as coaches were kind of, I don't know, it felt as close to 2001 since I've been here. You know, it felt like the first day of a new staff, and I think a lot of it is because we did have, obviously, a new staff on defense, but even, you know, changing the practice schedule as much as we did, it was brand new for me. It was brand new for the offensive staff. The defense obviously was going through some brand new stuff for them, and the players as well. So just a lot of excitement, a lot of anticipation, and we actually what's today? Tuesday. So Monday, yesterday, we got in the staff meeting. We went over the practice on the board, you know, talked about where everybody's going to be at every period. And then we went out in the field and as a staff, and we walked through it all, where everybody was going to be. And then at the end of the player meetings, we took the players out there. And we just kind of walked and said, this is where this drill is going to be. This is where this drill is going to be. This is what we're going to do period 4, 5, 6, or whatever. So we kind of dress rehearsaled at least where everybody's going to be throughout the practice. And then today, when we did it, it showed. It looked like we were organized and knew what we were doing. And we obviously, I was writing a few notes as we went on things we got to clean up, but for the most part, I was impressed with what we did, and I really like the new format.
Coach, you know, you're the head coach, you know, when that phone rings and you get the call that, you know, the guys did something like they did, what's that like for you? What do you think when you get that call?
Well, you're disappointed, obviously. You're disappointed, and then you just, you know, you got to decide, start deciding, you know, what you're going to do about it. And you know, at Georgia, we've never tried to hide things. I mean, if somebody makes a mistake, then we clean it up. We don't hide it. And you know, in due time, everybody's going to know what's going to happen because of it. And you know, some things when it comes to discipline are very public, and some things aren't. You know, and I'm not sure exactly where this is going to fall, but if there's something that we need to let everybody know, we'll let you all know.
Is just the fact that all four of you guys were out there playing today, is that indication that they're not going to be subject to dismissal? Just other
I would just say that you know, there's always a process that I go through before I make a decision, and sometimes it happens rapidly and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm not going to say anything other than, you know, if there's something I need to report to everybody, I will.
Did you ever get tired of having to defend your program because invariably when something happens, shots
Well,
from the outside? That maybe
Well, everybody wants to do that, and you know, it's. I think that if you took 125 students at Georgia or anywhere else in the country, and you said, "I'm going to follow these 125 people, and I'm going to see what they do," I think you'd probably find a little bit of this and a little bit of that along the way. You know, but because our guys are so. You know, our sport is high profile. The SEC is high profile. Georgia, you know, is high profile. And, you know, every time something happens, everybody knows about it. And so we deal with it. You know, these guys are not going to be perfect. I know that. If they do something that you know, needs discipline, we're going to give it. We're going to do that. If it causes a guy not to be at Georgia, then that's what will happen. If it causes a guy to lose playing time, we'll do that. If it causes a guy to, you know, have some other form of discipline internally, then we'll do that. But again, we're always trying to, you know, there's going to be a form of punishment, of some form of education, and then, you know, most of the time we're going to love them. Well, we're going to love them anyway, even if a guy's got to leave Georgia. I still love those guys, but, you know, I'm not saying it's going to happen in this case, but when it comes to discipline in general is what I'm talking about. And so, you know, we're going to do what we think is the most appropriate thing to do and go from there.
Coach, that disappointment you talked about, I mean, is that just from the standpoint that you bring these guys into your program and kind of a feeling of, well, you know, have I let these guys down at all or something like that?
No, I mean, it's just like, maybe anybody who's a parent, you know, if one of your children do something that they're not supposed to do, you know you told them not to, but they do it anyway. You know, some of them learn by watching, some of them learn by doing, you know, and so, but if you have, you know, if one of your children makes a mistake, you know, it hurts. It hurts. But then you gotta be responsible, a parent, and you gotta discipline them. And again, you punish them in some way. In my opinion, you punish, you educate, and you love them, and that's what we do. So, and I think what happens too is, you know, like, you know, a lot of our policies are stiffer than most people's, you know. So, if you're gonna aggressively go after certain things, then sometimes sometimes your business becomes a little more public than you want it to be. But in the meantime, you don't want to act like it didn't happen. You know, you want to. I mean, we're gonna address everything head on and handle it appropriately and move on from there. But that's just part of the learning process. But it's you know, it's a distraction. I imagine there's more people here today because of that. I don't know. Maybe y'all wanted to hear about football. But that's about all I'm going to say on that. So if we want to talk about football again, I'll keep talking.
Looked like a real good turnout in terms of injured guys. I don't know how limited Todd Gurley was. There was some question about that earlier.
Yeah.
Malcolm running around pretty good, some.
Yeah, Todd didn't do anything in the mat drill program. He did. Now he was there every morning, just to help everybody understand. If you can't do the mat program, everybody's still there at the same time, and Ron will have some type of exercise that guys can do that will push them and all that. But now that in the summertime we're allowed to have up to 8 hours of mandatory work, then anybody who missed the mat during our mat drill time, we had 10 mat drills, actually 9 this year because the weather kind of knocked one of them out. But if anybody didn't get 1 or 2 or 9 along the way, then they're going to make them up in the summer. And it's not to punish anybody, it's to help them, but it's also to let the rest of the team know that the guys that were doing it each morning, and when other guys weren't, they're over there riding the bike or whatever they're doing, they know that everybody's going to have to do the same amount of work in that area. But Todd was able to practice today, and he made it through the whole practice pretty good, I thought. Bless you. We'll see how it goes once we start putting pads on and all that. I don't know if we'll have any limitations or not, but very few guys doing nothing. The only 2 I saw that weren't in some kind of issue gear was Jay Rome and Justin Scott Wesley. I think we were the only 2. Everybody else was doing some type of work.
Was Keith Marshall?
Well, Keith, the other one, Keith couldn't do anything. Keith Marshall was not able to. He did some little bit of drill work, or at least he was scheduled to do some, maybe some run polish or something like that, because he was in gear, and I think Ron said he could do a little bit of fundamental work, but nothing competitively. Well, you know what? He was working. He got some work in. He didn't finish the day, but he got a little sore. But I think he's going to be able to. There's a chance he could run some routes competitively. He certainly can run some routes versus air, and whether or not he'll go against a defender or not, I don't know about that yet.
Some of the safeties that played a lot as young guys last year, did you get a chance to look at him?
It was, I'll be honest, it was a blur. I mean, it was just so many things were happening at the same time, and half of my focus today was just to make sure everybody was getting to the right spots and keeping the practice moving along as we planned it. But I just in general, I saw guys working hard, and guys just seemed to be really focused, and coaches were getting after them, and they were responding well.
Where do you see Tremel fitting in that safety competition as far as whether he'll play behind Trey or?
Right. Well, I don't even know if Coach Pruitt knows that right this minute. Part of this process early on, like I was saying in special teams, is just trying to figure out who can do what, and I think that's true of some of these other positions, especially guys that are, crossing over from offense to defense. Tremel Terry, as we mentioned, and then J.J. Green. He looked pretty natural out there, I thought, as a corner. The little couple spots I saw, but there's just a lot of evaluation to go on to try to plug in everybody where they belong.
On the offensive line, 2 questions. Was David Andrews out there today?
Yeah, David had a class conflict, but he got there. Maybe it might have been after you guys were already gone, but he might not have been there when you were there. He's about the only guy. There's a couple guys, maybe some specialists, but as far as offensive linemen, are really not many guys have a conflict, because Tuesday, Thursday is our, we schedule. Our academic people know on the front end that Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday is what we're shooting for. But if you have a major that has a class that just has to be done, and during that time, sometimes there's just no choice. And then in this case, there was no other choice but to have it. It's a Tuesday-only class, and so Thursday he'll be fine. And of course, y'all may or may not know, but the next couple Saturdays, the school's in session to make up the ice days. And so this Saturday coming up is a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I think, routine. And then the next Saturday will be a Tuesday, Thursday type day. So normally we'll practice earlier in the morning on Saturdays, but we won't be practicing during the time that classes are in session. So we'll be going a little bit later the next 2 Saturdays.
Another, how do you envision Watts Danson's role now? Is he guard, tackle, maybe both?
Yeah, he'll learn both, but right this minute, in going into this season, I think his best shot's going to be at guard. But the fact that he's going to know both is going to be valuable, because you never know what happens injury-wise and all that type of thing. So we'll see.
Does Coach Bubba want to get that number 2 quarterback spot solidified in spring? Is that something that will carry over to the season?
Well, let me just say this about the QB situation. Hudson's obviously ahead of everybody, but we don't want any position to think there's no chance that anybody can take my job or take playing time or whatever. So, I mean, we're telling everybody to compete for the starting job. We're not saying, hey, try to win this number 2 job. So, I'm not trying to cause a controversy at all, because Hudson is clearly in the lead. And, but it's going to be his job to keep it that way. It's going to be the other guy's job to try to close the gap. And I tell it to the rest of the team, too, because there may be a guy that's a solid starter that, the guy behind him might have been a freshman or even a redshirt freshman. But now maybe the guy behind him is going to his 3rd year, and he knows a lot more about how to play that position, and all of a sudden he's starting to sprout and blossom as a player. And so all of a sudden this starter might have been ahead of this guy because this guy didn't know as much. Well, now all of a sudden he knows as much. Now can he beat him out? Can he take some of his playing time? So I'm telling everybody, don't. There's no scout teamers in the spring, Everybody's competing for some type of job, and so hopefully that's what we're going to get.
Coach, you talked about the energy of the players. You must have liked the energy, the animation that you saw from Jeremy Pruitt today.
Yeah, Jeremy's he'll get after it. I don't know if everything was on audio. Hopefully there's no audio out there when y'all were there. But yeah, he shows some. He's got energy, and he's got passion, and but I think all of our coaches do, and we're coaching hard. I'm telling you, those guys are coaching hard, and everybody's being very demanding on what they're expecting, and so far, guys are buying in. But somebody will probably fall by the wayside and say, it's not worth it to me. We'll see. I hope that doesn't happen to anybody, but everybody better do it the Georgia way, or get on down the road, go somewhere else.
Time for one more question. Anybody?
Coach, have you put any immediate thought into who's going to maybe move up into that star position, whether it's someone like Quincy Mocker, who's the strong safety
Right.
position, or
You know what? I would just have to wait a little bit on that, and just like tonight, tomorrow we'll be watching all the film, and I'll be listening to what Coach Pruitt has to say about that type of thing. But right this minute, I couldn't give you a good answer. All right, gang.